How's it going, gang? 5D Lifestyles, Talbot here. We are doing some 5D fungus. We're talking about fungus. Specifically, we're talking about pressure cooking our substrate. So operating with a pressure cooker is one of the key pieces of the puzzle to growing fungus. All right, you need a clean space, but you also need somehow, some way to make your substrate clean. And so the best way to do that is with heat. So in a pressure cooker, you can sterilize the substrate. It's not to necessarily cook your substrate, it's more to sterilize it, to clean it, to purify it, so that you can inoculate in a clean space. If you're a small home grower, you can use a kitchen top pressure cooker. I have a kitchen top pressure cooker that I use for agar and things like that. It does fit one grain block or a few grain jars. So a home grower can use a small pressure cooker to do their grain spawn and then use a syringe they buy from a lab to inoculate that grain spawn to then pass on to, say, a pasteurized substrate. There's plenty of wonderful mushrooms that grow on a pasteurized substrate. But if you want to do this at a commercial level, or you want to do it at a bigger home level, at some point you're probably going to find that you need a pressure cooker. All right, there are plenty of people on the internet doing like super pasteurization and coming up with different unique techniques to kind of get around this. Hats off. I think it's awesome. For me, I was lucky enough to get a pressure cooker in country. I was just so blessed when I found this thing. It definitely it needed some work. The welds were problematic. I did have an issue with this, and I might just do a video just addressing that issue on its own. It was a rough one, but now it is working really well. So the components of a pressure cooker, it's obviously a vessel that can hold pressure. So this thing needs to hold at least 20 PSI. I have tested this up to 30 PSI. When I was calibrating these escape valves, it worked just fine. I was a little too scared to go any higher, but the escapes worked really well. And now I just function between 15 and 20 PSI and it works really well. So you need a vessel that can hold the pressure. You need something that can deliver the steam. So I use a boiler, I use a gas powered boiler. It regulates my pressure. So that was one of the things that was an issue when I first had issues, is that was not working, was not regulating my pressure cooker. But now it regulates it really well. It rises up to 20 PSI, clicks off, drops to 15 PSI, clicks on, rises to 20 PSI, clicks off, rises or drops to 15 PSI, clicks on, and so on, keeping this thing between that range for however long I decide to operate it. And so those are the two basic components for the pressure cooker. Of course, you want escape valves and you want some way to hold the seals. I use these clamps, they work really well. And so basically, the process to sterilizing your substrate. This in here is a fruiting substrate. The stuff that is in here that I'm about to inoculate. So this is a mixture inside here of chipped Poratillo, so it's a fence post that grows readily. It was actually blocking my view, so I went ahead and chipped it. It's a great nitrogen-rich wood source. I mixed it with some good clean eucalyptus sawdust I got from town, and then I mixed it with a little kind of wheat hulls to add a little more nitrogen. Had a big pile of that, and then I bagged that into big old autoclavable mushroom bags, and then I loaded that into my cooker. This cooker holds 24 normal size big blocks. These blocks that I'm making are extra big bags that I got, and so it only holds 18. So I had 3 different shelving kind of floors made to kind of put in. So I load the bottom, in this case 6 blocks, put in my little rebar floor, put another 6 blocks, put in another rebar floor, and then put in my last 6 blocks, or 8 if I have smaller blocks. When you load your cooker, you want to make sure to have space around the block because you're trying to penetrate that mass of substrate. And so I like to have a lot of space above, below, and all around. All right. With these big blocks, things are a little tighter than I normally do, but get as much airspace around because if you pack it tight, you're going to run an issue of penetrating that sterilization to the core. So I think it's definitely worth the time to leave space around. And if it's a bigger block and it's more material in there, I have to run this pressure cooker longer. With the smaller blocks on a woody substrate, I would pressure cook it for 4 hours. Now with these big blocks, I go for 5 hours. A lot of you out there are probably like, what are you doing, dude? That's way too long. But really, if you've done mushrooms for a little while, the paranoia of contamination definitely rises, and I want to make sure I have a clean substrate. So I go for extra time to make sure. I've also read from Stamets that the tenderizing of the substrate can also help with yield. So I don't mind going an extra hour to make sure I have sterilization. So I run this thing for that long. I ran this a few nights ago. I ran it for 5 hours, all right? I would obviously periodically monitor this cooker, make sure everything's running smooth, that my gas is going, that it's staying in that temperature range. And then after it's done, obviously you turn the machine off and let this thing cool. With a fully loaded cooker, it can take, I mean, I would say on average, my normal cooker load takes about 24 hours to cool if I want to cool it in vessel. Now, if I unload this and put it in front of my laminar flow hood, I can usually get that substrate to cool in about 6 hours. With these big blocks, all right, I'm actually letting it go a little longer. I'm letting it cool for 36 hours just to make sure they're cool if I want to cool it in vessel, right? And then the trick is, this is small fries for commercial mushroom operation. It's super huge fries for a home operation, but for small fry, but for a commercial operation, their cooker is way bigger. Their cooker can probably hold 100 to 200 blocks, where my holds like 24, and it is much bigger. It's a long tube, and take this cooker and flip it on its side. One door opens outside, and another door is actually sealed inside the lab. So it's like concreted into the lab. So they load the cooker from the outside. The dirty substrate goes on the outside. They do the cook. They either let it cool or they just straight unload it in front of the laminar flow hood, and then inside the lab they open up the inside door to unload into there. So this is my DIY kind of makeshift version of that. So I have this room that this room is made, ironically enough, from the old ceiling from the lab from when I blew this thing up. I've actually made this so if it did explode, it just messes with this and not everything else. So this room is somewhat sealed, and basically how I work this is once this is cooled, I clean this room. So I sweep it, and then I take a very strong cleanser. It's chlorine dioxide. It's not exactly bleach, but it is super powerful disinfectant. I wear a vapor mask and I clean this whole room, right, really, really well, spray it down, wipe the floors, and then I go take my shower, get everything ready, get my clothes on right, and enter through my 3 doors into my laboratory. And then I actually wear a vapor mask again, and I open up this door with my laminar flow hood on the other side, blowing clean air into this room. I open up this door, the positive pressure of my lab flushes in here. I usually do like an alcohol spray just to kind of move anything out. Open up the door so it's, and put my laminar flow hood so it's a nice straight line, blowing air on this cooker. And the way I've put my bags in this cooker is they're folded face down, right? So I feel like that's closed enough. The inside seal is closed and sterilized, and I unload my blocks onto the table in front of my laminar flow hood. If I need to cool them, I let them cool there. If they've already cooled, then they're ready and in front of a clean laminar, 99.9999+% clean air blowing over them, and then I can take them from there and then inoculate them. So again, these blocks are destined for lion's mane. These are fruiting blocks. I will inoculate them with a sawdust spawn from inside, let them spawn run in the lab before they get taken to somewhere to grow the actual mushroom, the fruit body. So that is basically it. And this system has worked really well. I can pretty confidently say I don't think I've had any contamination issues based on this setup. I know it's less than ideal. Of course, I'd love to have this door open up inside the lab. I'd also love to have this door just screw off because this is super time consuming. But, you know, I'm pretty stoked that I have my own pressure cooker in Ecuador that works really well. The setup works really well. So I hope this has given you ideas, or if you are getting a pressure cooker and you want to know how to work it, this is how you do it. I hope this is inspiring. I hope this is worth your time, y'all. So thanks for checking in. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comments. I would definitely like to say thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. You guys are inspiring me to do more videos. And financially, you're making this channel so it's got some vision of continuing. I think this will. All right, let's just keep going. If you want to support us on Patreon, check out the link below. Definitely a huge support to make this channel work. We very much appreciate it. Just $1 goes a long ways, right? And you get access to extra videos and content. You know you want that. So check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. We do appreciate it. And yeah, keep on rocking the 5D lifestyle because we're doing our best too. And we're doing our best to show it to you. Much love. Ciao. Mwah.